does seem like at this time of year, we hear a lot of focus on gathering families, going home, or bringing loved ones home to us. And maybe the importance of this idea of home is based on some of those main stories we have around this time of year. And one of them is the birth of Jesus. In the common version that we've all heard, Joseph and Mary travel from where they live in Nazareth to Bethlehem, which is Joseph's traditional family home. Now, I'm not sure whether they were going to or from home, because it doesn't really say what kind of family was in Nazareth or who was in Bethlehem still. And in fact, some of the research I did for one of a talk a couple of weeks ago says that maybe the word that we have interpreted as room at the inn could have just been room at the room, a room wherever they were, and that they might very likely have been staying with a large extended family, and that's why the conditions were so crowded, because everybody in the family had come home. But when I grew up, I thought of them as very alone, that they were this wandering couple, just the two of them, until the shepherds came and the animals kept them company. So, but we know about this idea of traveling and all the different parts of the family and trying to fit them all in, right? So that kind of has come forward. And the other big story that we have at this time of year is about Santa, who comes to visit us in our home. And so where home is and making sure we are in our right home at Christmas is very important to us as children. If you travel, the first time a child travels away from home, they want to know if Santa can find them wherever they're going. Does Santa know I'm going to be in that hotel room or at grandma's house or wherever? That's important to know that you're in the right home. So, however it started, there's now a great emphasis on this idea that we have to be at these happy gatherings, carrying on traditions, eating food, and looking at beautiful decorations. And we have commercials and movies and songs and magazines, and all of them for months now have been giving us this idea of how Christmas is supposed to go. Now, as you may know, getting reality to line up with these images of a perfect holiday can be challenging, right? Challenging to make it meet the idea we've been given. One of the traditions I have, and traditions play a big role in this, right? They're things that we do them repeatedly, and they bring us comfort, and they let us know that the holiday is here, and it's going to feel just like it's supposed to feel, and so we have traditions. And one of ours is watching holiday movies. And I haven't seen many of them yet this year, but one that I did have an opportunity to get most of was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So, and that's I think, obviously most of you have seen this one. Just a fast recap in case you haven't or it's been a while. Chevy Chase stars as Clark Griswold. And Clark and his wife Ellen and their two children are welcoming the parents on both sides, have come to spend a bit of time at Christmas. And then there's also an old aunt and uncle that come for Christmas Eve, and I take it are going to stay over till the next day. And Clark wants everything to be perfect. And so he has got thousands of lights that he's going to put up on the house. So much they have to add the nuclear boost at the electric company. And so, once he does get them to work, yes, David, I could tell the whole story, but we won't. And he wants the full turkey dinner and the fresh cut tree that they went out in the snow to get that's too big to even fit in the house, and gifts for everyone. Now, this is a comedy, and of course, nothing goes quite according to plan. And people get a little stressed, a little tense. Some actually threaten to leave, and Clark begs them to stay. And it's a movie, so everything turns out fine in the long run. Although I do wonder how the SWAT team and his insurance company got together on the damage to the house. Don't you? I mean, I want to know the sequel. But the popularity of that movie, the fact that that caught on and is shown every year now, it indicates that this idea of wanting to present this perfect picture and bring everybody together to share it and having it not work out quite the way we expected is a pretty common theme a lot of us might have experienced. We could review a whole long list of songs or movies, or we could each stand up right now and share some of our experiences. And what we would learn is that holidays can look a lot of ways. And how it looks has registered in our memory banks on this scale that runs somewhere from wonderful to dreadful. And the exact same experience, your story might have registered one place for you, and it would register someplace entirely different for me. Right? So one person might find spending Christmas alone to be a horror, and someone else might think it was absolute bliss. In fact, now my Thanksgivings growing up were spent with family, and lots of food, big table, everybody sitting around. And that was a given, and the only decision each year was whose house it would be at. And then I grew up and went out on my own, and the tradition kind of morphed, and it became food with friends of very sized groups. But one of my most memorable Thanksgivings, I had been working hard. I'd been working weekends and nights and doing this huge thing, and I was going to take Thanksgiving off. My mother lived with me at the time, so I was not totally alone, but it was close because we were both kind of in that mode. We got the 3 Star Wars movies that were out at that time. Remember when there were just 3? The 3 Star Wars movies, a little turkey breast, a can of Ocean Spray, cranberry jelly, and some stuffed top stuffing. And I laid on the couch and I watched movies, and that was the most wonderful because it was what I really, really needed in my life at that time. Now, I don't want to dwell on the negative sides, but there is plenty of literature out there about dreading the holidays. The stress and exhaustion, exactly what we saw in National Lampoon, is a little much for people. Sometimes there's travel involved, and that's stressful because it's crowded. The roads are crowded, the airports are crowded. I can remember living in Houston and they wanted us to be at the airport 2 hours before, and this was before TSA. This was when you just got on the plane. 2 hours ahead of time, and you better leave an hour ahead from your shuttle. Anyway, the traffic wasn't that bad. I just wound up at the airport with a lot of time to kill, but that's stressful. We get conflicts in our families and people that rub each other the wrong way. One of the things I looked at was a forum for new mothers or people about to be mothers. And oh my goodness, the concerns there about what these parents want or those, and what they've said they will or won't do, or what rules they'll agree to, has made even the joy of bringing the new baby home kind of stressful for people, or maybe something they want to avoid. They need to start their own traditions. Sometimes there's been a recent loss, and the dynamic has changed. Sometimes there's a past loss that happened at the holiday season, and so you always tend to keep associating that loss with this season. And there can be illness, and there can be depression. There are a lot of things that can make Christmas not look like the ads on TV. If we get too wrapped up in how it should look, and I put should in capital letters even in my own paper here, because we do that to ourselves. We get this should thing going. I heard somebody talking about something on the phone the other day, and I said, you just should it about 8 times in a row. You're probably on the wrong track. Right? But it's based on this idealized version somebody gave to us, and we wind up being miserable when peace and joy is what our goal is supposed to be. Now, that doesn't mean that the idea of home isn't a part of this season. So maybe what we need to do is take a deeper look at the word home. Yeah, it can mean the place that you live now, or where you lived, where you come from as a child. And we could be talking about a street address or a town or a country. We refer to all those different places as home. Even if we talk, though, about it as a physical location, there's some other thoughts, other variations on what that might mean. Home is where you feel comfortable. Home is where you're accepted. Home is where you're understood. Home is where you're safe. Safe when you cry, safe when you yell, safe when you look like, Right? So there are different ways to think of home. It may not be where you live now or where you came from. It may be someplace you've lived at in the past and moved on from. It may be someplace you're still waiting for. My husband and I like to think of it as home. Well, we say home is where the heart is, home is wherever you are. But we also talk in terms, there's like a vibration to a place. All of us together create the vibration of this place, and all of the greater area of Orlando creates a vibration. And where you want to be is the place that amplifies your vibration. I have lived where, now not everybody does sound waves and all that, but you know, right? Things can boost your wave or things can flatten your wave because they go against it. Home is that place that amplifies who you are. Another definition I'd like that aligns with this vibration idea is a place where something flourishes is most typically found or from which it originates. And the sentence they gave in the dictionary I liked, Piedmont is the home of Italy's finest red wines. I thought, I like Italy, I like red wine, so that was a great example. We could create one for here. Orlando Center for Spiritual Living is the home of fine metaphysical teaching. Right? It's a home. It's a place where something flourishes. That Thanksgiving I shared when I was a couch potato, that's what I needed to flourish that year, was the quiet and the inactivity instead of the normal hubbub and being with people that I typically enjoy. In sports, home is the goal or the end point. It may also be where you start, like in baseball, but it isn't always where you start, but it is where you want to end up. That would be a different emphasis for this season. If we were to define what home is in the sense of a goal for ourselves, and that's what we were pursuing during this season, that's the home we were looking for, is the home that's our goal. A related definition is to move or be aimed at a target with great accuracy. How wonderful to aim yourself with great accuracy to a goal of your own choosing. I'm going to offer a potential goal. It's on the front of the bulletin. There's a quote from Ernest Holmes, and it's lengthy, but I'll read. We have the concept of a divine presence which is personal to us, that is the basis of all religions. That idea that there's this divine presence personal to us is the basis of all religions, all life, of everything. And believe it or not, it is the basis of every man's reaction to life. And I promise Ernest would have said person's life if he were alive now. I don't care who he is or where he came from, what he does or what he believes. Fundamentally, at the root of all his concepts of life is his conscious or unconscious sense of relationship to the universe in which he lives, whether he is at home in it and secure with it or not. So there it is. I would offer you that as a possible goal, the feeling of being at home in the universe. That is a much bigger address than a street or a town or a country. It's much bigger than the family that we typically think of. It makes us part of a larger family. When we feel at home in the universe, presumably, we feel at home with ourselves, within ourselves, wherever we are. We're carrying home around with us. We can't get away from it because it's right here. It walks with us wherever we go. We're never alone because we're in that larger family, and we can choose those people that amplify our vibration. Or we can choose to be alone with ourselves as spirit. That's a complete feeling when you really get that. There's no need to stress because we're already enough. We're already fully loved. We're already fully supported, and everything is falling into place in divine right time, in divine right order. We have a lot of new Christmas songs out now, and there are a lot of things at home. I said in the email, I was looking at a list of saddest songs, and several of them were about longing to be home or longing for someone else to come home. We have songs about reindeer running over grandma. We have Jingle Bell Rock. We have a lot of kind of interesting ideas, and I like to sing all of those. But if you think about it, our older hymns and songs focus more on how we feel at this time of year. That's the important thing. Love and joy come to you, right? Joy to the world. Those are the songs we grew up singing. They were about how we feel. And that's what we really want, right? In metaphysics, we talk a lot about the Christ consciousness being born. But I'd like to point out it really was not born with Jesus. There's always been Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness, the idea that we are designed and created by and of the one that created all. We are of that. We contain what it has. We pass its power of creativity into expression. One of the things that's different about our teaching and most of the New Thought teachings versus some others is the idea that Jesus was here as an exemplar, not an exception. Jesus was not an exception to the rule, but the exemplar. This is how it works. If you understand that you are one with the universe, that you are at home in the universe, that you were created by the same, and that all of that is your own creative power, this is how it would look. It would look like what I'm doing, healing myself, healing others, and proving my immortality. So how do we get there? How do we become home in the universe? How do we activate our Christ consciousness? That's what we do this season, is make our awareness, right? First you have to be aware of something. It's always existed, but we aren't always aware of it as our own experience. So that's what we're trying to rebirth every year and every day, hopefully not just at this season, is that awareness of who and what we are. How do we do that? Well, through exposure to information, right? Hang out here. That's one way to do it. Read, study. This is a great little place for me to break in. We'll be starting classes, and a brochure is forthcoming. It should be here in an email. You said probably we'll email it out this week, and it'll be here next week. But we have 2 classes starting. One January 15th, Essential Ernest Holmes with Reverend Catherine, and Treatment Meditation with me on Thursday starting January 31st. So those are both. That's one of the ways you do it. You deepen, you practice. You hang out with people that are similar, and you talk and you share. And you learn more through that process of sharing and discussing and talking. You know, an example, it's been used many times, but sometimes if you took a glass of cloudy water and you just keep dripping clean water in there, eventually you have a cup of clean water. And there are times when it feels like life is very cloudy, and you're getting little drips and drops when you learn here, and you get these ideas, or you get those eye-opening moments. But if you keep putting it in, maybe splashing it occasionally, you get a big splash of clean water, eventually the cup is full of clean, clear water. You just keep putting it in. So this season of lights, I invite you to find home within yourself. I'm pretty sure that when you find home within you, all the other conditions will shift. I think that if Clark Griswold had felt at home within himself, his season would have been very different. He would have related to people differently. He would have related to situations differently. He would have known that that light switch was what the problem was with the lights, right? Yeah, so. Huh? Yeah, right. Yeah, nobody wants to watch that movie where everything goes right. Huh? Yeah. So you choose your goal, your home. I made a suggestion of one, but that's not necessarily the right one for you. Choose your home, the place you want to wind up, and aim at it. Aim at it carefully. You'll be home for the holidays, and you'll be home every day. Let's read the affirmation one more time, because I find home within myself and celebrate my arrival anew in every moment. I am safe, I am loved, I am cared for, I am at peace, I am home. And so it is. All right.